Dr. Han Jisoo stared through the observation window of Earth's first diplomatic space station. She watched as the alien ship approached, its crystal-like surface reflecting the distant starlight. Her heart beat faster, but her hands remained steady as she adjusted her uniform. After 15 years of studying possible alien life forms, the moment of truth had finally arrived. "Dr. Han, they're ready to dock," said her assistant, Park Tae-ho, his voice trembling with excitement. "The universal translator is working perfectly." Jisoo nodded, taking a deep breath. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had been chosen to be part of the first contact team. The space station, named Bridge, floated at a safe distance from Earth, designed specifically for this historic meeting. The alien ship connected to their docking port with a soft hiss. Jisoo and the small welcome team waited as the airlock cycled. When the door finally opened, she found herself face to face with beings that looked almost like sculptures made of living crystal. The lead alien stepped forward. Despite their strange appearance, they moved with grace. "I am Mary, representative of the Galactic Council," they said through the translator. "We come in peace to welcome humanity to the greater community of spacefaring species." Jisoo bowed slightly, following the carefully planned protocol. "Welcome to humanity's Bridge Station. I am Dr. Han Jisoo, Earth's xenobiology expert." The meeting proceeded smoothly until Neri consulted their data tablet. Their crystalline features shifted in what Jisoo would later learn was an expression of shock. "There must be an error in our readings," Neri said. "They suggest you originated from impossible. This can't be correct. Is something wrong?" Jisoo asked, keeping her voice calm despite her concern. "Your planet, Earth. Our scans indicate it's a Class 12 death world." Neri's voice carried what seemed to be a mix of fear and awe. "The gravity alone should have crushed your species. The atmospheric pressure, the temperature variations, the level of background radiation. How do you survive?" Jisoo exchanged confused looks with Tae-ho. "Those conditions are normal for us," she explained. "Earth is our home." The alien delegation whispered among themselves. Neri stepped closer to Jisoo, their crystalline form catching the light. "Dr. Han, you must understand. Most spacefaring species come from worlds we classify between Class 3 and Class 5. Anything above Class 7 is considered uninhabitable. Your world is Class 12. The realization hit Jisoo like a wave. What humans considered normal was extreme to the rest of the galaxy. She thought quickly, seeing an opportunity to turn this surprise into an advantage. "Perhaps," she suggested, "we could share how we've adapted to these conditions. Our adaptations might help other species explore worlds they previously thought impossible to visit." Neri's form shifted, displaying what Jisoo hoped was interest. "Tell me more." Over the next few hours, Jisoo explained basic human adaptations. She described how humans could survive temperature changes of over 50 degrees Celsius with minimal protection. She explained sleep cycles, which fascinated the aliens who had no concept of regular rest periods. Even human emotional responses, which Jisoo had worried might seem primitive, captured their attention. "You mean you can continue functioning even when experiencing strong emotions?" Neri asked, amazed. "And these emotional states help you solve problems?" "Yes," Jisoo answered. "Our emotions often drive us to find creative solutions. When we're afraid, we become more alert. When we care about others, we work harder to protect them." As the day progressed, more surprises emerged. The aliens were shocked by human endurance, the ability to heal from injuries, and especially the human digestive system that could process a wide variety of foods. "Your species sleeps for a third of each day cycle, experiences wild emotional swings, requires regular food and water intake, and yet," Neri paused, their crystalline form shimmering with what seemed like admiration, "you've not only survived but built civilizations, created art, developed technology, all while living on a world that would kill most species within minutes. Jisoo saw Taeho beaming with pride beside her. She understood his feeling. What they had always seen as normal was apparently extraordinary to the rest of the galaxy. The meeting took an unexpected turn when Neri revealed more about the Galactic Council's initial concerns. "We detected your radio signal centuries ago but delayed contact. We assumed any species from such a hostile world would be aggressive, dangerous. And now?" Jisoo asked carefully. "Now we see something remarkable," Neri replied. "You've turned your world's challenges into strengths. Where we expected to find hardened warriors, we instead discover beings who understand struggle and have learned to overcome it. Your adaptability isn't just physical, it's cultural, emotional, and technological." Later that evening, after the alien delegation had returned to their ship for rest, a concept they were struggling to understand, Jisoo sat in her office reviewing the day's recordings. Taeho brought her a cup of coffee, another thing that had fascinated their visitors. "Dr. Han," he said, sitting down across from her, "do you realize what this means? Everything we thought might make humans seem weak to alien species, our need for sleep, our emotions, our physical limitations, they see them as remarkable adaptations." Jisoo nodded, taking a sip of her coffee. "It's ironic, isn't it? We spent years worrying that we wouldn't be strong enough compared to alien species. Now we find out that surviving on Earth is considered an incredible achievement." She turned to her computer and began writing her report to Earth's governments. The implications were enormous. Humanity's place in the galaxy would be very different from anything they had imagined in their science fiction stories. They weren't going to be the physically superior warriors or the technologically inferior newcomers. Instead, they were going to be the survivors, the adapters, the ones who could teach other species how to thrive in conditions they feared. "We should prepare for tomorrow's meetings," Jisoo told Taeho. "The Council will want to know more about our environmental adaptation technologies. Our radiation shielding alone could revolutionize their space travel capabilities. And our emotional intelligence training," Taeho suggested. "From what Neri said, most species suppress or avoid strong emotions. Our ability to process and use emotions constructively could be valuable." Jisoo smiled, remembering Neri's fascination with human laughter. "Yes, we'll show them that what they see as our weaknesses are actually our greatest strengths. Every challenge Earth threw at us made us more adaptable, more resilient, and paradoxically, more empathetic." As she looked out the window at the alien ship, its crystalline surface now glowing softly in Earth's reflected light, Jisoo felt a surge of hope. Humanity had spent centuries imagining first contact, often with fear or dreams of conquest. Instead, they were about to embark on something far more meaningful, teaching the galaxy how to turn survival into thriving, how to transform limitations into innovations. "Send a message to Neri," she told Taeho. "Tell them we'd like to start tomorrow's meeting with a demonstration of how humans use music to process emotions. And Taeho, include that recording of children laughing that so intrigued them. Let's show them that joy can be as powerful as any technology." As Taeho left to send the message, Jisoo made one final note in her report. "Humanity's greatest strength may not be our ability to survive Earth's harsh conditions, but rather what those conditions taught us, that challenges can make us stronger, that limitations can spark innovation, and that understanding struggle can teach us compassion. We are not Earth's Deathworlders. We are its children, carrying lessons that the galaxy needs." The space station continued its orbit, a tiny bridge between two vastly different understandings of life. Below, Earth spun on, beautiful and harsh, dangerous and nurturing, the forge that had shaped humanity into something unique in the galaxy. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities to show that sometimes the greatest power comes not from being the strongest, but from learning to turn every weakness into a source of strength. As Jisoo finally prepared for sleep, another concept she would need to explain to Neri tomorrow. She couldn't help but smile at the thought of how many other surprises awaited both humans and aliens as they began to learn from each other. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth's Deathworlders had learned something vital. The best way to survive wasn't to become harder or more dangerous, but to become more adaptable, more innovative, and most surprisingly of all kinder. In the quiet of her station quarters, with Earth glowing blue and white through her window, Jisoo felt the weight of the moment. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community would not be marked by fear or force, but by something far more powerful, the wisdom earned from surviving on a world that had taught them both strength and compassion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but that was nothing new for the children of Earth. After all, overcoming challenges was what they did best. Captain Lee Do-won stood at the viewing window of the diplomatic vessel Hope, watching the swirling purple clouds of the gas giant below. 6 months had passed since Earth's first contact, and everything had changed. As a former military strategist turned diplomatic officer, Do-won had expected his job to involve complex negotiations and careful political maneuvering. Instead, he found himself teaching aliens how to breathe. Captain Lee called his assistant Yoon Soo-bin. The crystalline delegation is ready for today's demonstration. Do-won nodded and straightened his uniform. The breathing techniques he'd learned in military training were about to become one of humanity's most valuable diplomatic tools. In the ship's main conference room, Neri and 5 other crystalline beings waited. They had become regular partners in Earth's diplomatic efforts, fascinated by human adaptability. Today's lesson was about handling high-pressure environments. On Earth, Do-won began, we face many natural disasters. Earthquakes, floods, storms. We learn to stay calm under pressure. Today, I'll show you how we do this. He demonstrated a simple breathing exercise, one taught to every human emergency worker. The crystalline beings watched with their characteristic shimmer of interest. Your species intentionally controls breathing patterns to manage stress, Neri asked. This is revolutionary. Do-won smiled. What seemed basic to humans was transforming how other species approached challenging situations. Yes, when we're scared or stressed, these techniques help us think clearly and make better decisions. The demonstration continued, but was interrupted by an urgent message. A mining colony on a nearby moon was having problems with their environmental systems. The atmosphere was becoming unstable. The colony must be evacuated, one of the crystalline delegates said. Those conditions are unsurvivable. Do-won checked the environmental readings and shared a look with Soo-bin. For most species, yes, but these conditions are within human tolerance ranges. We can help. Within an hour, the Hope had changed course to the mining colony. Do-won led a team of human engineers wearing simple environmental suits, equipment that amazed other species with its relatively basic design. Your protection seems so minimal, Neri observed as they prepared to board the colony. Humans evolved to handle environmental changes, Do-won explained. Our suits don't need to do as much. This means we can work longer and move more easily. Inside the colony, the situation was tense. The local species, tall beings with 4 arms and silvery skin, were struggling to repair their systems in the deteriorating conditions. The human team went to work immediately. Watch and learn, Do-won told Neri, who observed from a protected control room. This is how humans handle crisis situations. The human team worked steadily for hours. When they needed rest, they took short breaks in shifts. They ate energy bars and drank water from their suit supplies. Every action demonstrated the adaptations that humans took for granted but which amazed their alien observers. You're eating? During a crisis, Neri asked through the communication system. Regular energy intake helps us maintain peak performance, Do-won explained while taking a quick bite. It's another adaptation from Earth. We work better when we fuel our bodies properly. As the humans repaired the environmental systems, Do-won noticed the colony's workers watching with increasing interest. The humans' ability to function under pressure, their team coordination, and their practical problem-solving approach were all being carefully observed and recorded. By the time the crisis was resolved, word had spread through nearby systems. The humans from the deadly world had turned their survival adaptations into a rescue operation. More importantly, they were willing to teach others how to do the same. Back on the Hope, Do-1 received a message from Earth's diplomatic headquarters. Similar scenes were playing out across human-alien contact points. Human engineers were teaching other species how to build more resilient systems. Human doctors were sharing techniques for handling physical stress. Human artists were demonstrating how emotional expression could lead to technological innovation. Captain Subin said, entering his office with a data pad, "We've received 57 new requests for human adaptation training programs. 12 species want to learn our breathing techniques. 24 are interested in our emergency response protocols. And there's even a request to study human sleep patterns." Do-1 looked at the list with pride. "Any requests for military training?" "None," Subin replied with a smile. "They're more interested in learning how we survive than how we fight." That evening, Do-1 hosted a dinner for the crystalline delegation, another uniquely human diplomatic tool. The ability to safely consume a variety of foods had made shared meals a fascinating cultural exchange opportunity. "I must admit," Neri said, watching the humans eat with their usual efficiency, "when we first learned Earth was a Class 12 world, we expected its people to be primitive, focused only on survival. Instead, you've shown us that adaptation creates innovation." Do-1 nodded, taking the sip of water. "On Earth, we have a saying: necessity is the mother of invention. Every challenge we faced made us more creative. We didn't just survive our world. We learned from it. And now you teach others," Neri observed. "It's remarkable. Your species turns solutions for survival into tools for connection." The conversation was interrupted by another emergency call. A passenger ship needed assistance navigating an asteroid field. Their sensors were malfunctioning in the high radiation area. "Shall we show them how Earth's Deathworlders handle space debris?" Do-1 asked Neri with a slight smile. The crystalline being's surface rippled with what Do-1 had learned was their version of enthusiasm. "Yes. Show us more of how your adaptations can help others." As the Hope changed course to assist the stranded ship, Do-1 reflected on how differently first contact had turned out from anyone's expectations. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for possible conflict, only to find their greatest strength was in teaching others how to overcome challenges. The next few weeks brought more opportunities for human adaptation training. Do-1's team developed programs to teach other species how to handle variable gravity conditions, how to process multiple information streams during crisis situations, and how to use emotional responses as problem-solving tools. "It's interesting," Subin said during one training session, "how our perceived weaknesses have become our greatest diplomatic assets." Do-1 watched as a group of alien engineers practiced human breathing techniques. "We never saw them as weaknesses. The need to sleep, to eat regularly, to process emotions, these were just parts of being human. Now they're revolutionary concepts to other species." The Hope continued its diplomatic mission, but its role had evolved. Instead of just negotiating treaties or trade agreements, it had become a floating adaptation academy. Species that had once avoided Earth as a deadly world now sought out human teachers. "Captain," Neri said during their final meeting of the tour, "the Galactic Council has a proposal. We would like to establish permanent human adaptation training centers across the galaxy. Your species has shown us that the best way to handle challenging environments is not to fear them, but to learn from those who thrive in them." Do-1 looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth spinning in space, beautiful and harsh, dangerous and nurturing. "Tell the Council we accept. After all, teaching others how to adapt and thrive, that's the most human thing we could do." As the Hope prepared for its next mission, Do-1 updated his diplomatic log. "Earth's reputation as a death world made other species expect us to be hardened survivors focused only on self-preservation. Instead, we've shown them that true survival isn't about becoming tougher or more isolated. It's about learning to adapt, to innovate, and most importantly, to share those innovations with others. In doing so, we've become not just survivors, but teachers, not just adapters, but innovators, and not just inhabitants of a death world, but ambassadors of hope. The ship's engines hummed as they set course for their next destination. Somewhere out there, another species was waiting to learn that what seemed like limitations could become strengths, that challenges could become opportunities, and that even the harshest world could produce the most helpful teachers. Ambassador Kim Hae-Newell sat in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council headquarters, listening to the rising voices of panic. A massive solar storm was heading toward 3 major inhabited systems. Most species had never faced such a disaster. But Hae-Newell remained calm. She had grown up in a world where natural disasters were common. "Please," a tall, silver-skinned council member called out, "we must evacuate all 3 systems." "There isn't time," another replied. "We can't move billions of beings in 48 hours. Hae-Newell stood up slowly. The chamber grew quiet as the human ambassador took the center platform. Her black uniform, marked with Earth's new symbol of a rising sun, stood out among the colorful robes of other species. "Earth has faced similar disasters," she said clearly. "We don't need to evacuate. We can protect these worlds." Neri, now a senior council member, moved forward. "Ambassador Kim, please explain." Hae-Newell activated the central display, showing Earth's magnetic field patterns. "On Earth, we learned to live with solar radiation. We developed shields, underground shelters, and warning systems. We can adapt these technologies to protect your worlds." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Hae-Newell waited patiently. She had learned that other species often needed time to accept new ideas. But implementing such systems would take months, one council member argued. "Under normal circumstances, yes," Hae-Newell agreed. "But humans work best under pressure. Give us 24 hours and your best engineers. We'll show you how Earth handles emergencies." The council voted quickly. They had learned to trust human innovation, especially in crisis situations. Within an hour, Hae-Newell was coordinating with human emergency teams across the galaxy. In the command center, Hae-Newell watched as dozens of screens showed human teams working with local engineers. They were teaching alien species how to quickly convert common energy shields into radiation barriers. Human doctors shared techniques for handling radiation exposure. Even human construction workers were helping build emergency shelters. "Ambassador," Neri said, watching the screens, "your species seems to work faster during emergencies. How is this possible?" Hae-Newell smiled as she coordinated another team deployment. "On Earth, we evolved to respond to danger. Our bodies release chemicals that help us think and work faster when needed. What others see as stress, we use as fuel." The next 48 hours showed the galaxy why humans had survived Earth. Hae-Newell worked without rest, taking only short breaks to eat and drink. Her alien colleagues were amazed that she could function without their standard rest cycles. "Don't you need to stop?" asked a concerned council member. "Humans can go days without proper sleep when necessary," Hae-Newell explained, accepting another cup of coffee from her assistant. "It's not healthy long-term, but it's another survival trait from Earth. We'll rest after the crisis is handled." As the solar storm approached, the emergency measures began working. Shields powered up over major cities, underground shelters filled with people. Warning systems, based on Earth's hurricane alert networks, helped coordinate evacuations of the most dangerous areas. Hae-Newell stood in the command center, watching the storm hit the first system. The shields held. Emergency teams responded to problems quickly, using human crisis protocols. Hours passed as the storm moved through all 3 systems. When it was over, the damage was far less than anyone had expected. Hae-Newell finally sat down, exhausted but satisfied. Neri approached her with a strange expression. "We've received the first reports," Neri said. "Total casualties, 0. Property damage, minimal. Ambassador Kim, your species just saved billions of lives using adaptation techniques from your deadly world. Hanul accepted a meal from her assistant. Earth taught us that surviving isn't enough. We had to learn to protect others too. Every earthquake, every storm, every disaster gave us practice for days like today. In the following days, as Hanul presented her report to the council, she noticed a change in how other species viewed humans. The fear of the Deathworlders was gone. Instead, there was respect and gratitude. The human emergency protocols were remarkable. One council member said, "They don't just survive disasters. They help others survive too." Hanul explained how Earth's history had shaped human crisis response. Every challenge we faced made us stronger, but also kinder. We learned that helping others survive was as important as surviving ourselves. The council chamber was quiet as she showed videos of the emergency response. Humans working alongside other species, teaching while doing, turning chaos into order. The images reminded Hanul of Earth's own history, how natural disasters had often brought out the best in humanity. "We request," the council leader announced, "that Earth establish a permanent emergency response training program for the galaxy. Your species has proven that the harshest world produced the most capable protectors." As Hanul accepted the council's request, she thought about how far humanity had come. Their greatest fears, that they would be seen as primitive or dangerous because of their violent world, had proven wrong. Instead, Earth's challenges had prepared them to help others. In her private quarters that evening, Hanul recorded her personal log. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. We've proven that living on a death world didn't make us deadly. It made us strong enough to protect others. Our ability to handle crisis situations, our quick thinking under pressure, our endurance in emergencies, these aren't just survival traits anymore. They're gifts we can share with the galaxy." She looked out at the strange stars of the galactic core, thinking of Earth spinning far away. The world that other species had feared had produced exactly what the galaxy needed: beings who understood both survival and protection, both strength and compassion. A message arrived from Earth's government, congratulating her on handling the crisis. Hanul smiled as she read it. They were already planning to expand human emergency response training across the galaxy. Earth's survival knowledge would help protect countless worlds. Perhaps, she wrote in her final report, "This is why Earth was so challenging. We weren't just learning to survive, we were learning to help others survive too. In facing our world's dangers, we developed not just the strength to endure, but the wisdom to protect, the skills to teach, and the compassion to help. Earth didn't make us the galaxy's strongest species, it made us its most helpful." The next morning, as Hanul prepared for another council session, she received reports of more species requesting human disaster response training. Earth's Deathworlders were becoming the galaxy's guardians, turning their hard-earned survival skills into protection for all. "Ambassador," Neri said as they walked to the council chamber, "your species has changed how we view challenging worlds. Perhaps they don't create dangerous beings, they create protectors." Hanul nodded, thinking of all the lessons Earth had taught humanity. "The greatest strength," she replied, "isn't in surviving alone. It's in helping others survive too." The council headquarters buzzed with activity as more emergency response teams arrived for training. Earth's children were teaching the galaxy that the best way to handle a dangerous universe was not to fear it, but to learn from those who had mastered its challenges. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's most trusted allies, proving that sometimes the hardest worlds produce the kindest hearts. 5 years after first contact, Earth had changed. The once isolated planet now served as the galaxy's center for diplomatic training and cultural exchange. Dr. Han Jisoo stood in her new office at the International Cross-Species Medical Center, looking out at the amazing sight below. Beings from across the galaxy walked through the gardens, their different forms creating a living rainbow of colors and shapes. Dr. Han, her assistant Taiho called from the doorway. Captain Lee Do-won and Ambassador Kim Han-nul have arrived for the opening ceremony. Ji-soo smiled. It had been a long journey from that first meeting on the bridge station. Now, Earth was about to open its first major galactic institution. In the main hall, hundreds of beings gathered for the ceremony. Do-won, now director of the Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, stood with Han-nul near the stage. Neri, their old friend from first contact, sat in the front row with other council members. "I never imagined this 5 years ago," Do-won said quietly to Ji-soo as she joined them. "We thought we'd need to prove we weren't dangerous. Instead, we're teaching the galaxy how to be stronger and kinder at the same time." Han-nul nodded, watching the crowd. "Every species brings something unique to the galaxy. Our gift was learning to turn survival into protection." The ceremony began with a demonstration that would have seemed strange 5 years ago. A group of human children played in an artificial rain shower on stage, showing how Earth's species adapted to changing conditions. The alien audience watched in amazement as the children laughed and splashed, completely comfortable in what other species considered harsh conditions. Ji-soo took the stage first. "Welcome to Earth's International Cross-Species Medical Center," she began. 5 years ago, we learned that our world was considered too dangerous for most species. Today, we open this center to share what that dangerous world taught us. She explained how the center would work. Human doctors would work with alien medical experts to develop new treatments. Earth's harsh conditions had given humans unique healing abilities that could help other species. Do-won spoke next, presenting the expanded cultural exchange program. "Earth's challenges taught us more than survival," he explained. "They taught us art, music, and storytelling. They showed us how to find beauty in difficulty. Now we can share these lessons with the galaxy." The audience listened carefully as he described new programs. Alien students would live on Earth, protected by human-designed environmental systems, learning how Earth's cultures had developed under pressure. Han-nul delivered the final presentation. "Today, we also announced the opening of the Galactic Diplomatic Academy," she said. "Here, species that once feared each other will train together, learning how to turn understanding into connection." As she spoke, images appeared behind her. They showed the last 5 years of human integration into the galaxy. Humans teaching disaster response, sharing medical knowledge, and helping other species explore dangerous but resource-rich worlds. Neri joined them on stage for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The crystalline being had become Earth's strongest supporter in the council. 5 years ago, Neri said, "We thought Earth's harsh conditions would make its people harsh too. Instead, they made humans into the teachers and protectors the galaxy needed." After the ceremony, the 4 friends, Ji-soo, Do-won, Han-nul, and Neri, met in Ji-soo's office. Earth's night lights sparkled below them, mixed with the glowing buildings of alien embassies and schools. "Did you see the latest council report?" Han-nul asked. "More species are adopting human emergency protocols. The galaxy's disaster response rate has improved by 300%. Do-won smiled. "And applications for the cultural exchange program are at an all-time high. Species that never worked together are learning to cooperate by studying how Earth's cultures adapted and grew." Ji-soo shared her own news. "The medical center is already making breakthroughs. We're using human healing techniques to help species recover from conditions they thought were permanent. Our ability to adapt to injury is teaching others how to heal better." Neri's crystalline form sparkled in the evening light. "The Council has a new theory about Earth," they said. "Perhaps worlds like yours don't create Deathworlders. They create guardians. Every challenge you face taught you not just to survive, but to protect, to help, to teach." The next morning, they attended the first day of classes at the Diplomatic Academy. The sight would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Species that had once been enemies sat together, learning Earth's techniques for handling stress and conflict. In one classroom, a human teacher demonstrated breathing exercises that helped with anxiety. In another, students learned how Earth cultures had turned their struggles into art and music. In the medical center, alien doctors watched in amazement as humans showed their remarkable healing abilities. "Look at that," one said, pointing to a group of students in the garden. Young beings from different species were sharing a meal together, another human tradition that had helped bridge galactic divides. Food, music, art, medicine. Hey Newell mused. Everything we developed to survive on Earth is helping bring the galaxy together. Jisoo watched a class practicing human emergency response techniques. "We spent so long thinking Earth's conditions made us weak compared to other species," she said. "But those conditions gave us exactly what the galaxy needed: the ability to adapt, to endure, and to help others do the same." The day ended with a sunset gathering in the Academy's main hall. Representatives from across the galaxy shared stories of how human teachings had changed their worlds. One species had survived its first natural disaster using Earth's emergency protocols. Another had solved a centuries-old conflict using human diplomatic techniques. As night fell over the Academy, Jisoo wrote in her final report, "Earth's story in the galaxy turned out differently than anyone expected. We weren't the strongest, the most advanced, or the most powerful. Instead, we were something better: teachers who understood struggle, protectors who had learned from hardship, and friends who knew how to turn survival into connection." The lights of the new institutions glowed in the darkness, symbols of how far humanity had come. Earth, once feared as a death world, had become the galaxy's school, hospital, and shelter. Its people, once expected to be hardened survivors, had become the galaxy's most trusted allies. Perhaps, Jisoo wrote in her closing lines, "This is the true meaning of strength: not the power to stand alone, but the wisdom to help others stand. Earth didn't just teach us to survive. It taught us to thrive, to protect, and most importantly, to share those lessons with others. In doing so, we didn't just find our place in the galaxy. We helped create a galaxy where every world's challenges could become gifts to share." Outside her window, the next generation of galactic leaders walked Earth's grounds, learning that the harshest worlds could produce the kindest teachers, and that true strength lay not in avoiding challenges, but in learning from them together.